Welcome back to the Google Workspace Update podcast from Strawberry 7. My name is Adam.
And my name is Adam.
We're here every week to bring you the latest updates happening in the world of Google Workspace. This podcast is available in audio format from wherever you cast your pods and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Strawberry7.
Coming up on the show today.
We've got 7 updates for you today, so a little bit more than last week. We've got updates to Google Sites, Google Drive, Google Meet hardware, admin, Google Calendar, Google Classroom, and Google Meet. So we've got a really nice, diverse sort of mix today. As always, there is a link in the podcast or the video description to the document that we read from. This document contains some more detailed information, some relevant links, lovely pictures, and even some moving graphics showing you these features in action. So let's get to it.
On with the show. Right, so I think we've got a couple of little updates for everybody this week. First one is to do with Google Sites. So you can now jump to where your collaborator is while editing in Google Sites. When working on content in Google Docs or Slides, you can go wherever your collaborator is working within the document or presentation by clicking on their avatar on the top right corner. Google is excited to announce a similar feature in Google Sites. Now, when a site editor clicks on the collaborator's avatar, they will jump to the selected tile of the clicked collaborator. If their collaborator is on a different page, the site editor will be taken to that page.
Okay, well, that's a really nice update. When you started reading that bit about when working on content in Google Docs or Sites, I thought, hang on a minute, didn't we do this update before in one of the previous podcasts? But obviously it's saying it's already in Docs and Slides and they brought it across to Google Sites. So yeah, this is, when we talked about this update before, we said it was really, really nice update. Very, very useful to be able to do that. Really useful to be able to do that in Google Sites as well, I think, Adam.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think I had the exact same thought. So it's like, I'm sure we have already done this. I was like, oh no, this one is specifically for Google Sites. Before it was Docs and other areas of Workspace. So yeah, it's great to see that coming to Google Sites. I wonder if it's everywhere now, or maybe we'll see it coming to a few more places in the future. But yeah, good update.
Well, they haven't mentioned Sheets on there.
I was just thinking that. I wonder if they could do it as something very similar, but then you end up going to the same tab. Within Sheets, if you have more than one page essentially to your sheets, if it could still do that instead of just taking it to the same cell.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I think technically in Excel anyway, the spreadsheet itself is called a workbook, and then those are called sheets within the workbook. I think that's the right terminology. So yeah, that would be really good. But maybe it is in Sheets already. They just haven't mentioned it on this particular update. But yeah, really, really nice to see. I can imagine if you are using Google Sites, that would be very, very useful, especially if you're a teacher and you've got a few of your students editing the same site or something like that. You could click on the avatars and see where they're editing. So yeah, very, very nice. What's the rollout pace and availability, please, Adam?
Okay, so rolling out to rapid release right now. Launch to scheduled release is planned for February the 12th, and this is available to all Google Workspace customers, Google Workspace individual subscribers, and users with a personal Google account. I've also added a lovely link to our document if anybody would like to learn more about following a collaborator on Google Sites.
Great, thank you very much, Adam. What's our next update, please?
Up next, Google Drive. So there's an update to the list grid toggle on Google Drive. So to make the list grid toggle more visible in Google Drive, Google has introduced a new split button toggle with the updated Google Material Design 3. This toggle is now available across all Drive web pages, making it easier for you to switch between viewing modes based on your preference.
That's really nice. So just for anybody who's sort of wondering what this is basically when you go into Google Drive, there's a couple of options for how you view your folders and files, a little bit like in Windows, so you can have multiple options. In Google Drive, there's 2 options. You can either have it in list view, which is where each item is kind of a thin strip, one after the other, in listed down, or you can have the grid view, which is where they're a little bit bigger and you get a bit of a preview So if you're familiar with that in Windows, that would be like the difference between the details view and the thumbnails view. That's probably the easiest sort of comparison there. I mean, Google always used to default to the grid view. I don't know about you, Adam. I really don't like the grid view. I find it very, very
I'm all
difficult
about the
to
list
find
view.
anything.
Yeah,
me too.
Everywhere, actually. So I know some of our customers that they have strong preferences either way, but my preference is list view. I just find it so much easier to work with. Whereas, so like the school that I was at earlier today, actually, they much prefer to use the column view, I think it would be, where if you click on one folder, it just adds another column to the right to open that folder, and then if you go into another folder, then it so on and so forth, so that you can end up with loads and loads of different columns of everything. That's not within Google Drive, but just when they're using their computers. And personally, I can't.
Oh, I was going to say, because that's within Mac, right? That you're talking about there.
That's right. And
okay.
For me, I can't stand that. I need a list. I just want to double click on a folder and then go inside, and then I'm within that folder. Whereas, but each to their own. Everyone does have their own personal preference, and so they're the ones that need to use it. And if they're happy with that, then happy days. But for this particular update, either I'm going a little bit mad, but did they not actually do this quite some time ago? I'm sure this was changed, not this week, although it's just being announced this week, but I feel like this maybe changed like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah. I thought exactly the same thing when I saw this update. However, you got to remember we are on rapid release, so I'm wondering if we've seen it a bit ahead. I mean, there's just for listeners, there's nothing detailed here, unfortunately, from Google about rollout pace here, so we can't tell you when this feature did get turned on. But I think we probably saw it a bit earlier because we're on rapid release, and maybe they've announced it now because it's kind of rolled right out across scheduled release for everybody. But this is a really nice tweak. It looks really, really nice. It's a very, very good use of Google Material Design 3, which for anybody who's unfamiliar, we talked about it on a previous podcast, and Google Material Design 3 is a new kind of
graphical
design
suite.
Engine.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that they've built it all on, which is very, very nice, very, very pretty, and it's a really nice tweak. I think it looks really nice. It's easy to see, easy to use. I don't know what you think about that, Adam.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those little subtle things. It doesn't really need any explanation because it needs to be simple and just really obvious what it does. And I feel that it has achieved that. So it's really clear as to whether you are switching between list view or grid view. And so it's simple but effective.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, looks really, really nice. Thank you, Adam. What have we got next, please?
Oh, but very quickly on that. So this update, this new toggle button is available right now to all Google Workspace customers, Google Workspace individual subscribers, and users with a personal Google account. So available to everyone that can access Google Drive. I've also added a link in our document if anybody would like to learn more about viewing and reordering your files and folders.
Okay, great. Thanks, Adam. Sorry I jumped the gun a bit there, but what have we got next, please?
Up next, this is to do with Google Meet hardware. So, for Google Meet hardware, auto update expiration will now be referred to as end of Meet support. Google is making changes to the terminology that refers to when a Meet hardware device is no longer supported. End of Meet support date replaces auto update expiration in the Meet hardware help center. The admin console will show end of Meet support instead of EOL or end of life in both device information and fleet overview pages. The field name for end of life in the admin console's CSV downloads will change from EOL date to end of Meet support date.
Great. This is a really nice update. We said before, we don't use Google Meet hardware devices ourselves. We don't have any customers who do. But even just looking at this as an outsider of using that, this makes a lot more sense. I can understand why Google have done this because there's a couple of things here which I think make this a lot easier. One, they've unified the term a little bit more. So rather than it being, if you look at how it was, in one area it seemed to be auto update expiration, and then in another area it was end of life. They've unified that now to just be end of Meet support. So that, first of all, is better because they've unified it. But I also think that it's a lot more relevant as well because First of all, auto update expiration is way too technical. That's the sort of gibberish that we'd see on photocopiers.
It also implies that it could still manually be updated.
Yeah, that's true, actually. That's true. I hadn't thought of it that way. But
I
yeah,
just
it does.
interpret that as it's not automatically doing it anymore, so then you'd manually have to do it.
Yeah. But do you know what I mean by that, Adam, with the photocopiers that we deal with on a daily basis, how the terminology on them is just so weird and it's so technical. You can tell it's been, no offence to developers, but you can tell that it's been written by a software developer and nobody has looked at it and gone, should we make that just make a little bit more sense? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, rather than just firmware update, it's like channel broadcasting system or something. You just think, what on earth are you talking about? So yeah, auto update expiration is blatantly something that some technical person has come up with and thought, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. But as a human, as an everyday person or admin, you just look at it and go, what? So that's the first thing. The first thing is unifying it. Great. Second thing is making the terminology a lot better, because not just that auto update expiration, but also end of life as well. That indicates to me that the product is end of life, whereas that's not actually accurate. It's just Meet is no longer supported on it. So I think these make a lot of sense as to why Google have done this.
Yes, absolutely. And for anybody listening, there is a couple of pictures. There's some graphics in our document where you can kind of see where these changes, what they look like. There's a couple of examples there, so you can see what they look like within the admin console to kind of highlight the changes that have been made.
That's a really good point to make there, Adam, because these graphics are well worth looking at, because it makes it look it's really straightforward. First of all, in the device information, it just says end of Meet support, and it's got a date and year, which is great. And the other thing that I really like is on the overall console, it kind of tells you a summary of the ones that are either out of support or the support's approaching, which is really
I like
nice
that. I think that is a good feature. Yes, and also just a little bit more on this. So the end of Meet support dates for Intel 10th generation has been extended from June 2028 to June 2029 to reflect their continued availability. So if anybody just so happens to be thinking that far ahead, and be like, oh my god, 2028 is just around the corner, then fret not. Do not worry, you have another year.
Hey, if you're really organised on your budget setting, it might be just around the corner, right? Thank you, Adam. What's the getting started and the rollout pace here? And hopefully I haven't stolen your thunder on the getting started.
Okay, so for the admins getting started, you can visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about the Google Meet hardware auto updates policy and end of Meet support. For the end users, though, there is no end user impact or action required. Rollout pace, rapid release and scheduled release. There's a gradual rollout for this update, so potentially up to 15 days for feature visibility, which started on January the 29th. And this update impacts all Google Workspace customers with Meet hardware devices.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Thank you, Adam. What have we got next, please?
Up next, admin update. So, local data storage exports your organization's workspace data into the geographic location of your choice is now launching in beta. So, Google is introducing Google Workspace's new feature, local data storage. This feature allows admins to export their organization's workspace data into the geographic location or locations of their choice. And there is a few options for this. So the user data, where you can specify users, groups, organizational units, or your entire organization. Export frequency, so you can opt for continuous or one-time exports. And storage settings, so you can specify the geographic location of the Google Cloud Storage bucket that the data is exported to, who can access the data, and more settings within the Cloud Storage bucket. This update allows admins to export their organization's workspace data into their own Google Cloud Storage bucket located in a geographic location of their choice to meet their data sovereignty, compliance, and data archival needs.
Okay, it's quite an interesting update, this. Initially I was a little bit more excited about it, I must admit, because I thought what you were going to be able to do was export the data to kind of almost anywhere that you wanted to, sort of your own storage area. You can kind of do that, but it's still got to be Google Cloud Storage. So it's still within Google's ecosystem that you're doing that. Now, I'm not that familiar with Google Cloud Storage, so I don't, as a specific product, so I don't know if you have to, I presume you have to pay for that somewhere along the line, because I'm guessing that's outside of Google Drive and things like that. But, being able to do it to a specific geographical location is very, very good. Here in the UK, we've obviously got GDPR regulations.
That's the main thing that jumped out for me. GDPR. You need to know where your data is stored, so then...
Yeah.
If you're going through the process of, we want to make sure that all of our data is stored within our own country, for example, but maybe by default your Google data is stored overseas in their servers abroad somewhere, you can say, no, actually, we'd much rather keep all of our data on servers over in this country instead of that one. And then you can make a conscious decision about that and record where your data is being stored as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, immediately I'm thinking that you can use this for some kind of additional backup or something like that might just add another layer of protection into your business. So, especially given the fact that you've got an export frequency there as well. So you can just do continuous exports on, I'm presuming, sort of a daily basis or a weekly basis. I'm guessing you can kind of
it does say geographic location or locations. So it looks like you should be able to, let's have my data everywhere in all countries.
Yeah, completely negate the point of the of having it in a particular place. I can see it. It's generally a good feature. It's a bit outside of our remit in terms of what we typically support, but when you talk in a bit, Adam, about who this is eligible for, then that makes sense, that it's because we don't support customers quite to this level. So I'll let you talk about getting started.
Okay, so for the admins out there, this feature is available for Google Workspace Enterprise Plus customers with the Assured Controls add-on. Eligible Google Workspace customers can use a form to apply for the beta, and I've added a link in that, or you can contact Google directly as well. I've added a link for that as well. You can also visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about exporting all of your organization's data and exporting data by organizational unit, group, or user. Additionally, you can also use Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about allowing your users to download their data.
That's really useful to hear, Adam, and those links that you've added in. Thank you for that. What's the rollout pace and availability, please?
Okay, so Google is currently accepting open beta signups, and I've added a link in our document for that. This is available to Google Workspace Enterprise Plus customers with Assured Controls add-on. If you don't currently have the Assured Controls add-on, then please contact Google or reach out to your sales representative for more information. And I've added a link in for that, which I think it just goes directly to their email address. That actually takes you to a Google form that you can use to go and contact Google. I was thinking of a different link. Somewhere in here there's an email address.
No, it's fine. And as always, if you get stuck with that or you need any more information on that, you can contact us on info@strawberry7.com as well. Thank you, Adam. What's the next update, please?
Next update, Google Calendar. So, improving the Google Calendar appointment scheduling experience with new features. Last year, Google introduced new appointment scheduling features to help you set more relevant meeting durations and tailor your calendar view to match your preferences. In efforts to further improve upon the current appointment scheduling experience, Google is adding a couple of new options. So, you can add up to 20 co-hosts to your appointment schedule during the setup process, so you can host appointments with others. You can create appointment schedules on secondary calendars. Prior to this update, you could only create appointment schedules on your own primary calendar. Now you can create the schedule and receive booked events on secondary calendars as well. This can be particularly helpful when multiple users, such as a team, need access to the same set of office hours. Everyone with permission to use the secondary calendar can make changes to the schedule and view incoming bookings. The appointment schedule can check the secondary calendar for availability, but cannot check the availability of all users with access to the secondary calendar. You can also expand the delegate access functionality to appointment scheduling. Currently, delegate access enables you to let someone else, such as an administrative assistant, access your Google Workspace account to send mail or manage calendar invitations and events on your behalf. Now, the person with delegate access can edit or delete your appointment schedules on your primary calendar. You can also select check calendars for availability, which enables you to decide whether or not you want to check the availability of calendars added to the appointment schedule. Unchecking this setting means even if there is a conflict on one of the calendars, users will still be able to book that time. And this may be useful if you want to prioritize incoming bookings over existing meetings. So never mind all your loyal customers that have been there forever. As soon as somebody new comes through the door, they get priority.
Which of course we definitely do not do, Adam, but yeah, some people might want to do that. Well, we've talked before about appointment scheduling. I am a huge fan of appointment scheduling. I think it's a fantastic feature that Google Calendar have to offer. As a quick kind of recap for anybody who hasn't heard of it before, if you're familiar with Calendly, then that's what this is basically, but it's built within Google. For anybody not familiar with Calendly, it's a way of setting up a link that you can share out. We've got one, for example, in the podcast description and the video description. It's a link that you can share out where somebody can book an appointment onto your calendar. So it avoids that whole thing of you emailing backwards and forwards trying to find an available date. You just send them a link. There's a whole load of dates and times that they can choose from, which you've configured. They just pick one. It goes into your calendar. It's all automatic. So it just saves on a lot of administration. I really like I liked appointment scheduling anyway. I used to use Calendly. Then it was available in Google Calendar. I thought, great, I don't have to pay a subscription to Calendly. So that's good from a business perspective. And it works really, really well. You know, I've used it and it works very well. These features are really nice. There's some nice graphics in here showing how these features kind of work, but you know, the co-hosts and things like that is pretty self-explanatory. There's a little moving graphic for showing the secondary calendars as well, which is really nice.
I particularly do like that feature where you can also use the secondary calendars as well. So maybe you have a shared calendar across your business or your school or somewhere like that, which is quite common practice. And so then you can now incorporate that instead of having everything only within your calendar, and also combining that with the delegate access as well. So for example, maybe you're a head teacher in a school and you may have a PA, which many of our head teachers do. Then the PA can do this for you, but they can also add the appointments to various different calendars as well. It doesn't just have to be their primary calendar. It can also be to a shared calendar as well. Yeah. So there's a couple of these features I think combined I do particularly like, actually.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's very, very, very nice features here. Very, very useful for anybody using this sort of system of appointment scheduling. And for anybody who hasn't taken advantage of it and thinks that they would like to use that, or like I say, they're already paying a subscription to somebody like Calendly, I'd highly encourage you to check this out and take advantage of it, as long as you're on a eligible Google Workspace subscription, of course. But you know, if you're not, because it's available quite, again, not to steal your thunder, Adam, but it's available fairly low, you know, at Google Business Standard, for example. And I would say a basic Calendly subscription is the same or more as the difference in cost between Business Starter and Business Standard. So just bear that in mind, especially if you're using it for all of your users. So just bear that in mind as well. Thank you, Adam. What's the getting started on this, please?
Okay, so for the admins, it's nice and easy because there is no admin control for this feature, but for the end users, so you cannot add groups or users outside of your domain as a co-host. Co-hosts are not able to see appointment schedule details or make changes. However, if the schedule was created on a shared calendar, the co-host will have access to see the details or make changes. Bookings will be visible on the hosts and any additional co-hosts' primary calendars. The check calendars for availability feature will be on by default and can be disabled by unselecting the check calendars for availability box in the appointment schedule editor. Co-hosts' calendars are not automatically checked for availability. You can select your co-host's calendar in the Check Calendars for Availability section to have their availability considered, as long as you have subscribed to that calendar. You can also visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about creating an appointment and customizing your appointment's availability, and there are links for that within our document.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you, Adam. A bit of a shame that you can't add a group in as a co-host, but I can kind of imagine why they've done that.
I expect that is because I think I said you can only have up to 20 co-hosts in this, and you may have more. I expect you'll have groups of with more than 20 people in.
Yeah, that's probably why. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What's the rollout pace and availability, please?
Okay, rollout pace, rapid release, there's gradual rollout, so potentially up to 15 days for feature visibility, which started on January the 30th. Scheduled release, there's also gradual rollout, which is starting on February the 12th. The availability, so for the co-hosts, secondary calendars and delegate access feature, that is available to Google Workspace Business Standard, Business Plus, Enterprise Standard, Enterprise Plus, Education Fundamentals, Education Standard, Education Plus, the Teaching and Learning Upgrade, and non-profits. The Check Calendars for Availability feature is available to Google Workspace Business Standard, Business Plus, Enterprise Standard, Enterprise Plus, Education Fundamentals, Education Standard, Education Plus, the Teaching and Learning Upgrade, non-profits, Google Workspace individual subscribers, and users with a personal Google account.
Oh, okay, so just a little bit more availability on the Check Calendars for availability feature. Yeah, no problem.
Yes, yeah, it looks like there's some education. Oh no, there was a bit of education in the other one as well. Something I noticed about this actually, and because everybody knows by now, it is common knowledge at this point that Google is listening to this podcast. Have you noticed that not that long after we stopped saying when features who they're not available for, Google has now stopped doing that as well. They no longer say who these features are not available for, but only specify who they are for. Very shortly after we did.
What can I say, Adam? Some people are leaders and some people are followers. So that's all I can say on that. No, we know that Google AI bot is hanging on our every word. So it would be great if Google just messaged us and said, "Yeah, exactly, quite right too." It'd be great if Google messaged us and said, "Hey, we've noticed that you're doing a podcast on our system. It's really cool." But you know, they haven't quite yet. But if you are listening at Google, we'd love to hear from you. So yeah, thank you very much, Adam. That's a good point that you pointed out. I'm sure it's absolute coincidence that's happened. What's available next, please?
Up next, Google Classroom. So shareable class templates and classwork in Google Classroom is now generally available. So we touched on this update. It would have been just before Christmas, maybe beginning of December or so. I think this feature was an open beta, but now it is generally available. So earlier this year, I'm pretty sure it was late last year actually, Google announced a Google Classroom beta that simplifies lesson planning with shareable class templates and classwork. Google are excited to announce now global availability for Google Workspace for Education Plus customers in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Japanese. Curriculum leads and verified teachers can now share links to high-quality classes and class templates, so other educators within their organisation can preview and import classwork to an existing class or to a new class. This will provide educators with ideas for instructional design and enable them to stay up to date with the best materials. This feature enables curriculum leads and teachers to easily distribute standardized curricula or classroom content to others within their organisation. As a result, fellow educators can easily preview, select, and import high-quality classwork into their classes.
I think this is very, very good. We talked about this update before when it was announced before in beta. We said it was just fantastic, potentially kind of game-changing, because we know that this is something that teachers definitely want to do, especially when you're, let's say, a school with 4 form entry and you have a lead in year 3 or something like that, and they create a really, really good content for their class or something like that, a really good assignment. they will definitely want to share it out with their, at least in year 3, they'll want to share it out with their colleagues and share it out across all those different teachers. So I think the ability to do this is really, really good, which we talked about before and we said how good it was. The fact that it's now generally available, and it's available English, Spanish, Portuguese and Japanese, is brilliant, as we talked about before. As they expand it out to those different languages, that is a really, really nice feature. And for any of our listeners, there is a great moving graphic here as well, showing you how this sort of works and how you can share that out. And Adam's, I'm sure, going to talk in a bit about how to do that, but I think this is really nice, Adam.
Yes, I love this. This may actually be one of my favourite updates for Google Classroom, because I just know it's just such a good update. Anybody that does use Google Classroom a lot, I know, will absolutely love this update as well. And as you say, so then if teachers are doing loads of classwork, then it's great to be able to share it with everyone else in the school. Or what if that teacher then leaves the school? Then the next teacher that comes along, if they've set kind of really good templates for key subjects, like whether it's like maths or things, maths never changes, of course, because maths is maths, then and things like that, then I just know being able to retain some of the templates from Google Classroom assignments is going to be really, really helpful and very beneficial, and just make life easier for everyone as well. Even if, okay, so maybe they'll want to change things a little bit, as things generally do change and adapt from year to year and lesson on to lesson, but it's the template, it's the building blocks, it's the foundation of everything that you need. So maybe it's 80% of the work has been done for you.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything that you've said, Adam. I think it's a really, really good feature, and you're quite right. Even if you just get 80% of it, that's still a huge time saving for the teachers out there. So yeah, really, really nice. Really like this feature. I think there's some additional details here that you've got, Adam, is that right?
Yes, so student information such as assignment submissions, comments and grades will not be visible when previewing a shared class. Imported class material will be saved in draft mode for the selected class.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that the imported stuff is saved in draft mode. You wouldn't want it to just go straight out as an assignment, so that makes a lot of sense.
Which can also be a really handy feature. Sorry to cut you off. So then maybe it's the beginning of the year or your semester or whatever. You could stick a load of lessons straight into draft mode, and so then maybe if some of your students are off sick, or maybe XYZ gets in the way, as soon as you suddenly need a lesson in Google Classroom, it's already there, already prepared as a draft. All you need to do is say, go live now, and it's already there. So then you don't need to do everything on the spot. So then you could just have a couple of weeks worth of lessons that always sat there ready to go at a moment's notice.
Yep, fantastic tip, Adam. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Adam. What's the getting started and rollout pace and availability, please?
Okay, so for the admins getting started, there is no admin control for this feature. However, admins should make sure that a few things are set up for their end users. So in order to share classes, educators must have a Google Workspace for Education Plus license assigned to them. I've added a link in our document for that, so then the admins can help ensure that everyone has the correct license assigned to their users. To preview and import classwork from shared classes, educators must be a verified teacher as well. I've also added a link in our document if anyone needs some guidance with that. For the end users out there, to share a class, click the Share Classwork button on the classwork page. After receiving the class link, open it within your browser. When previewing the shared class, select the classwork items you want to export to a class. You can also visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about sharing class templates and classwork. And I've, of course, added a link in our document for that. Rollout, rapid release and scheduled release. There was a gradual rollout for this update, which started on January the 31st, and this is available to Education Plus customers.
Great. So another thing, if you're an MSP listening and you've got education clients, this is yet another thing that's available on that Education Plus tier, another thing that they might want to consider going up to Education Plus in order to unlock that, because as Adam said, I echo what Adam said, it's one of my favourite updates that I've seen to Google Classroom as well. So very, very nice to see that. Thank you very much, Adam. What is the... Oh, sorry, just before we move on, I just wanted to mention that you said there in the getting started that the educators must be verified teachers. Just a little tip out there for anybody who is managing Google Admin or Google Classroom, if you're an MSP or anything like that. We have actually a recurring support ticket. I think it's weekly or monthly or something like that, or bi-weekly. I can't quite remember, Adam. But we've got a little recurring support ticket, and we actually do it for our users. All that you need to do is go into groups.google.com, go to the teachers, classroom teachers group, and there you'll see your approved members and you'll see any pending members. So those are members who have requested to join as a teacher, and you can kind of look those
and
up.
declined as well.
Yeah, declined. Yep, that's quite useful to see. So you'll be able to look any of those staff members up, make sure they are teachers, and approve them. Just for anybody wondering what those how you verify a teacher.
Because the very first time you go to Google Classroom and you sign in, it will ask you, are you a teacher or are you a student? And so if you say that you're a teacher, then that's almost submitting your application to become a verified teacher. So then if the admin then goes to the admin console or goes to groups.google.com, they will then be able to see that you are then a pending teacher that requires approval. And I've seen quite often, I say quite often, it happens, every now and then a student will say, I'm a teacher. So then we'll get a load of students in there as well, which of course we say, no, sorry, you're a student. So then you can have the permissions of a student. But, and then of course approve all the teachers as well. So it is important for the admins to make sure that you do approve your teachers to become verified, because I can't remember, I don't have an example off the top of my head, but I think some features don't work if you're not a verified teacher. In fact, this is one of them. You need this update. You do need to be a verified teacher to do some features. Yeah,
that's right, Adam. Yeah, absolutely. It's quite important. It's quite sort of crippling if the teacher isn't verified in Google Classroom. It's quite restrictive as to what they could do, because basically it says, oh, they're a student then, so it puts them in there.
Yes, because I want to say like if you're doing a Google Meet within Google Classroom, as the teacher, you have overall control over everything that's happening, and you can kick people out the meeting and mute them and things like that. But if you're not a verified teacher, I don't think you can. As you say, you may as well just be another student.
Yeah, that's right. And just to sort of a little thing here for the Google AI bot, for a future update, it would be very nice if there was a way of adding a group or groups into the Classroom Teachers group, sort of a nested group feature, because what I would really like to do is say, look, if the person requesting is in the staff group or they're in the teacher group or whatever you've created, then just approve it, because we control who's in those groups, and we know that they're verified staff members, so it's kind of a good control process. And it would be nice if you could kind of auto grant based on their group membership. I don't know how difficult that would be for Google to implement, but it would be very useful if they could implement that. So if Google do implement it, you heard it first here on this podcast. Thanks, Adam. What have we got next? Oh, well, last, please.
So, yeah, finally from us this week, it's another Google Meet update. So you can now pin chat messages in Google Meet. So you can now pin messages at the top of the meeting chat. Pinned messages will appear for all users, even if they join the meeting after the message was initially sent. This makes it easy to ensure that important messages, such as links to presentations, are displayed prominently and easily accessible by meeting participants. I really like this update. In fact, I'm almost surprised just how much I like this update, actually. I think it is really, really good, because I was thinking, especially if you're joining a meeting that's more webinar type based, I've seen it so many times, countless times. You spend the first 10 minutes saying, oh, will everybody have their microphone on mute, or like, I don't care if your camera's on, but let's all mute our microphones so we all don't get feedback, and this, that, and the other. And you have to poddle along for the first 10 minutes, because there's always latecomers to the meeting, and then you have to repeat yourselves, because then somebody's dog starts barking in the background, and then
I was thinking the same thing.
The full focus in the meeting. So then literally just have your pinned message at the front, so will everyone please mute their microphones whilst the key speaker is speaking, or something along those lines, or as they say, if there are important links or stuff, just have it pinned to the top of the chat. I'm surprised. I do really like this feature, actually.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's so funny. I was thinking, as you were saying that, I was thinking of exactly the same example. There's always somebody who joins the meeting, hasn't muted their microphone, and all you hear is this dog barking manically in the background. I don't know why that always happens. But yeah, I think it's really, really nice. Well, I actually really like the example that Google's given here of pinning a link to a presentation or something like that at the top. Q&A document or something like that would be really useful as well to be able to pin to the top there. So I think I echo what you're saying about you like it more than you thought, because when I was reading this update, I thought, I didn't think of that. But now that they've pointed it out, it's really good and it's a really kind of almost obvious update. So I think that's probably why we quite like it, because almost hadn't thought of it, but it is really good. It's really useful. Thanks, Adam. What's the getting started then, please?
Okay, so for the admins, there is no admin control for this feature, but for the end users, meeting participants can pin and unpin their own messages. Meeting hosts can unpin anyone's message. That's interesting. You can pin a message by hovering over it in the chat window and selecting the pin icon. You can also visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about sending chat messages. About sending message, you type it and then press enter.
I know, right?
But there is a link in our document if anybody doesn't require a bit of assistance with that. There's also a lovely picture in our document to give you an example of this as well. So it's quite interesting. I would have thought that the meeting host, it sounds like they can unpin anybody's message, but you can only pin your own message if you send. So I almost would have thought that hosts, maybe even co-hosts, should be able to pin anybody's message, because say we're having a meeting with the team and you say, Adam, will you quickly just add in a link to that document that we happen to be talking about? So whilst you're continuing on with the presentation, I will go find that document and post it in the chat. You would then not be able to pin that message to be prominently visible for everyone. Me, as the person that sent that message, would need to do that. So I kind of would have thought hosts or even co-hosts would be able to pin any message, really.
Hey, it's going to be in a future update, Adam. That's Google are going to listen and they're going to go, that's a good idea, Adam. Adam and Adam, yeah, that's we'll pin that. I think that's a good point, and it makes perfect sense that hosts can unpin messages as well, because particularly like in a networking meeting, you're going to have somebody put their details in and go, ooh, let's pin it, because my details are more important than anyone else's. So especially if you get a whole load of business owners in a meeting together, God, they're the worst. So and I can say that because I'm a business owner. So I can imagine everybody wanting to pin their own contact details, for example. So it makes sense that hosts can unpin the messages. But I think you made a very good point there, Adam. That would be useful if they could pin any messages. I mean, maybe they can, but Google just haven't explicitly said, because they haven't explicitly said they can't. They've just not mentioned it, I think, because they've said hosts can unpin anyone's message. And they said meeting participants can pin and unpin their own messages, but they haven't explicitly said that hosts can't do it, but they haven't said they can. So yeah,
it is all in the details. We will need to try that one out.
yeah, I'm sure we'll try it out in our next team meeting or something like that if we remember. You'll be in charge of remembering, Adam. I'll definitely forget. Thanks, Adam. What's the rollout pace and availability, please?
Okay, so rapid and scheduled release. There's a gradual rollout for this update, which started on January the 31st and is available to all Google Workspace customers, as well as users with a personal Google account.
Yep, that makes sense. It's available to everybody because it's a pretty generic Meet update. That's lovely. Well, thank you very much for that, Adam. And that is it, everybody. It's everything that you need to know about all of the updates happening in the world of Google Workspace. Remember that this podcast is available in audio format from wherever you cast your pods, and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/strawberry7. Thank you very much for joining us this week.
And we'll be back again next week with more updates.
Goodbye.
Bye.